So this hotel, this stage, is the house that Elvis built.
Elvis!
You aware of that?
Yeah.
I guess we get to educate some people tonight, don't we? Well, there's no getting around it, no two ways to say this, but my father is one of the greatest bass players who ever walked the planet. He was in basically what they call the Wrecking Crew back in Los Angeles, making records for a lot of artists. There was Joe Osborne, Carol Kay, my father, Jerry Schneff, and those were the cream of the crop. And my dad played on records from Neil Diamond. Here's one that I absolutely love to share. The Doors' LA Woman is my father's name. Ride Thomas Home, that's my dad. Don't You Love Her Madly, that's my dad. LA Woman, that's my dad. But what's really cool is he was Elvis Presley's bass player. Yep. In fact, he brought my brother Darren, who's here tonight too. He brought the two of us up here in 1976 and said, I have a great seat for you. You guys Darren's coming to the first show. Jason, you're coming to the second. We need to go get a black long sleeve button-up shirt. That's why I got one for tonight. A commemorative uniform from 1976. He said, Darren, you're coming to the first show. Jason, you're coming to the second. You're sitting in the percussion stand. 1976. My brother was up there on the first show. I was on the second one. And the percussionist said, you want to look like you're doing something? And I said, sure. He says, you want to look like you're doing something? I said, yeah. He goes, here's a tambourine. So I'm standing up there. The Sweet Inspirations come out. They're doing their set, and I'll never forget they were doing Getaway by Earth, Wind & Fire, which was becoming one of my favorite bands in the world. Little did I know I'd collaborate with these guys on tours with Chicago and Earth, Wind & Fire, but back at 14 years old, Getaway! I'm up there, they're doing their set, and I'm playing tambourine. All of a sudden, J.D. Sumner and the Stamps come out, kind of standing right where the horns are. They're doing their set, I'm playing tambourine, and then it happens. Ba, 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 boom, doom, 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 ba, da, ba, ba, da, ba. Elvis is high-stepping over on that side of the stage, and I'm standing up there, and I've got this tambourine in my hand, and I thought, these things cut, man. If I make a mistake and I throw them off, I don't want to have, who's that from my mouth back there? Is that Jerry Sumner? That's where he got his move, I'm telling you, it's because of me. Well, here's the treat for you all. My father's here tonight, we're bringing him out right now. Jerry Schneff.
Thank you so much. Jason asked me to come over here and tell a few stories and maybe play a song or two. And I didn't know whether any of you would know who I was. So I've spent time on this stage over the years,
Yeah.
we have down below here our dressing rooms and Elvis's dressing rooms and the star that's playing here. And I was going to just talk about what went down in the dressing rooms when we were with Elvis. So, first of all, the opening night in 1969, when we opened here, we were all dancing. Elvis liked us to come to his dressing room and hang out before the show. So we go down there, and the dressing room was filled with smoke. I mean, everybody smoked except Elvis, but he didn't care. If we wanted a drink, there was a bar, we could have a drink. He didn't want us to be drunk. But there was a bar, we could have it. So we'd sit there, we'd listen to the show going on, the comedian, and when it was time for us to go up on stage, we'd come up at the stairway, and we'd come out here, and the curtain would be closed. And so opening night, we were standing behind the curtain out on the stage, and the curtain's right here. And I looked over, and Elvis was coming by with the Memphis Mafia guys. They were playing grab ass with him, trying to keep his mind off of his worries, because he didn't know whether this audience was gonna like him or not. And he came out, and he stood there, and we started the show, and he walked out. And when he walked out, people did just what you just did, and for me. And the look in his eyes changed, and I saw he knew that people loved him still. Now, I'll tell you a story. I wasn't going to tell this story, but when I got the call to go to work with Elvis, James Burton called me in Los Angeles, and he said, "We're putting a band together, and we want you to come down and play tomorrow." And I didn't like Elvis. I grew up listening to black music.
Yes.
And I was a jazz string bass player and doing session work in Los Angeles. And my partner at the time, I said, you're not going to believe this, but they want me to come down tomorrow and play with Elvis Presley. And she said, "You're kidding me." So I said, well, maybe I'll go down. I don't have anything booked tomorrow. I'll go down and just see what he's about, So the next day, I went to RCA Studios in Los Angeles, and I walked in the door, and I had on jeans and sandals and a T-shirt and long hair. And this was before people were having long hair in Elvis's group, So also, I looked across the room, and this man stood up and came across the room, and he was dressed beautifully, and not rock and roll at all. And he came over, and I looked, and it was Elvis. And he stuck out his hand, and he said, "Thank you for coming, Jerry. We really appreciate it." And I thought, wow, this is a really nice guy, And I said, I don't know any of your songs. And he said,
I didn't write any.
"Do you know how to play the blues?" And I said, yeah, I can play the blues. So he said, let's go over and play some blues. And we went over and got on the bandstand. And when we started playing and he started singing, my hair stood up on my hands and my arms. And I thought, what? There's something going on here that I don't understand, but I think I want to learn more about it.